You see this, uh, deal on, one on consent agenda? It's allowing, it's some property it looks like we bought a right of way, over there at Canis and
Hey, do you have any zoning, board on Colonel Glenn? Is number 7 yours or yours?
There is actually,
Number 7.
I got a bunch on here. 7.
It says 7 on here.
Outside of Colonel. That's
Where is this located? 97 to 15.
I looked at it.
No.
Huh?
Are y'all on Facebook? The song number 50th for you.
Is it out there at those car dealerships?
Close, I think. Oh, that's all I wanted to know.
I would never believe.
Just 30 minutes ago, Tom. I'm like Superman. I go into the phone booth and I put on my lawyer cape.
There's that big church. Right here.
Hold on just a minute. I'll come over to your place.
You would come back to Minnesota. There's a community right here. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm doing with you.
I'll probably get it.
Okay, get out. That's him. Appreciate it.
Mm-mm. Before we get started, clearly we want to welcome everyone to the Board of Directors Agenda Meeting for October 12th, 2021. This is an opportunity to review the agenda for our formal board meeting that will be held on October the 19th. Before we carry on with the city's business, I want to take time for those who are aware or not aware. Earlier this afternoon, there was a shooting nearby Little Rock Central High. Within that Little Rock Central High neighborhood community, where a couple bullets or so did strike the school. We are grateful. We praise God that students, the faculty, and staff are all safe. We want to continue to ensure that we have the utmost public safety and how paramount it is for every resident. We're grateful for the demonstration of collaboration, communication, and coordination between the Little Rock School District, the Little Rock Police Department, and the City of Little Rock as it relates to ensuring that the school was locked down once there was aware of a shooting nearby the school, and then later to dismiss the students. And so we want to again commend the men and women of the Little Rock Police Department, the security team of the Little Rock School District by taking the appropriate measures to secure our students, the faculty and staff and teachers at the Little Rock School District. So with that being said, that the Little Rock Police Department are urgently investigating to find and arrest the person or persons who committed the act. They will be held accountable. They will be arrested. But before we carry on with today's business, I do want to have a moment of silence to share our gratefulness for no injuries and no lives lost. We thank you. Board members, are there any questions regarding item 1 on the consent agenda? Director Wright, I see your hand.
Yes, Mayor, I want to have a presentation on, or an explanation for resolution number 1. I thought we had dealt with that previously, and I'd like to know why it's back on the agenda.
Yes.
We just
Mr.
dealt-
Honeywell?
Mayor, members of the board, Director Wright, this is a small piece of property. I don't know if we can pull up on the agenda that shows the outline of the parcel that we are selling. It may help visually explain what we're doing. We originally purchased this property as part of the Canis and Bowman Road projects. The outlined area that you see is sort of a long, slender piece of property that actually has some drainage infrastructure that's in it that was existing when we bought it. And the reason that we kept that separate when we sold the surrounding property was because of that drainage. The individuals that are wanting to purchase this property from the city have expressed their desire to take over maintenance of this property or this drainage infrastructure that's under this property. So the city and the staff felt like it was in our best interest to sell this property to them as part of their development that they're planning to do in this area.
Are you at liberty, or do you know what the sales price will be?
It's $107,700 is what the price tag is.
Will them maintaining it impact anybody else's property other than theirs?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I don't want to hear
Yes, ma'am.
that it's not being maintained later by somebody that's impacted by it, because they will call me.
No,
Okay.
it's directly connected to the infrastructure that we put in place as part of the Canis Road construction that occurred right there along the frontage.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor Hines?
Yeah, John, on that, another note, so, because right now that's a big open, or was an open ditch last time I drove by there. Like part of it had collapsed, so we didn't do anything with it. They're saying they're gonna maintain it. Does that mean their repairs are imminent and it's gonna be fixed? Or,
It's my understanding that there will eventually be a development that occurs on that. And so yes, they will be responsible for maintaining that ditch once they have possession of it. And then how they incorporate that into whatever development that occurs there, that's something that we'll have to review and make sure
well,
that it's not.
it's not really a ditch, it's where drainage is collapsed and it's an open hole.
Right, there's a box under part of this.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Probably, that's probably what you're seeing.
It's been that way for quite some time. That's why I was curious.
I think it's they desire to have a continuous ownership of
Well,
crop.
I get it. I know that corner's in play, especially with us coming in and redoing Bowman Road right there on that side of Canaan.
Yes, sir.
So just want to make sure it gets fixed. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Director Wyrick, then Director Wright.
Mine is not on resolution number 1, but I'd like a presentation on item 2, 7, 10, 13. That's it.
Yes, ma'am. Before we go to items, a presentation for items 2, 7, 10, and 13, Director Wright,
I need a presentation on 2.
Director Collins,
The ones I'm interested in are Ward 7, and I guess Doris is interested in Ward 6, so I guess you have to go through all of them.
Well, that's fine. If we could
Where is
bring
the-
up the overall map, should be, I don't know where on that list is, but that kind of lets everybody see where everything is. Just in general, members of the board, we used to do land use plan amendments across the city on anywhere between a 3 to 5 year cycle. We would start at one end of the city, go through with areas to the other end of the city, and just see if we wanted to change the land use plan, present it to the planning commission, and then for recommendations to the board. We have since changed that because that type of approach kind of lends that how much new property are you going to look at. So we really wanted to look at more of a corridor analysis. And so if you look at that, we have 2 corridors that we really wanted to look at. One of them was the Woodrow corridor in between I-630 and Asher Avenue. The other one is the Shackelford, just corridor, just south of Colonel Glenn. We've had several incidences come up that some land use plan changes may be in order just because some offices was being developed, non-office development there in areas that we wanted office to be developed. And we do have a couple areas off of Canis that have been developed multifamily, one location that we just wanted to correct that area. And then also an area just north of a proposed development that y'all seen here recently about a month and a half ago regarding a concrete plant facility down there off of Mableville. That we wanted to kind of look at the land use areas in that. And we started this previously prior to the application to kind of see what we needed to do in that area if went to light industrial, as some of that had been going about maybe adding some open space. So
I have a question about that one.
okay, so if we could go to that LU 1901-02, kind of zoom into the exhibit of that one, and I can explain what we're looking at doing for this one.
So what is the?
There should be a separate map for that.
Yeah, there is. I think it's item 2. So as you mentioned, we had a concrete plant that was going into part of this, and the board turned it down. And it looks like we're adding light industrial to the back of that. So what is the zoning for a concrete plant?
Well, it's not light industrial. The light industrial is more of a processing or manufacturing that's enclosed. area. That's why I went for a planned development, because it didn't meet that type of criteria. It was more outside scenario. So that area has been zoned in certain portions of that for industrial, or right now, that one that you looked at, that was I-2, which is also enclosed. And then to the north of that is I-2. And then as you get closer to Mapleville Pike, closer east where the mobile home park that Director Adcock had mentioned during that meeting, it shifts over to office zoning. And then as you go south towards the highway department, it goes more into commercial and planned commercial development. So what we were looking at doing is, in this land use, acknowledging more of a light industrial type use, not heavy, and then looking to add more open space buffers adjacent to some of that residential land that hadn't been developed yet, just to the west, which would be north of that existing subdivision. And of course, we don't know when that land would be developed. There is some drainage issues at that location for future development. That's why it's been sitting like it's been for a while. But if something does potentially happen in the future, I think that if we need to start planning for more of an open space area buffer between the two.
Okay, so you've got the light industrial.
Yes.
And then back behind it, looks like it was I-2, and you're turning that into park open space, all of that I-2 that's back there?
Yes, and that's part of that. If you look at the creek that's just to the north of
Right.
it, that's all
Floodway
part
or
of that.
floodplain.
Yeah, we don't believe that's developable land.
That was my questions on that one. There's a little bit of area that you're changing to park open space on the west side of I-2, and this is future land use. But do you know how much of that you're putting into park open space? Because if you remember the concrete plants, we were concerned about how close it was to this neighborhood, Herrick Lane, Derby Lane, all that area over there. So do you know how much that land is, how wide it is?
I'll have to get you the width of that one for that area, but we do have that data. It's not in the map that we shown, but I'll
Yeah.
make sure we label that.
I'd like to know what that is, because I know he's doing another application in the same location. It's coming before the planning commission.
He's looking to do one to revise it, to try to accommodate the comments that was raised previously by the residents, to try to lessen any sound impact, potentially add more buffer or open space zoning to be undisturbed for that, which wasn't presented previously.
All right, that's all I had on that one.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
for Ward 6, are you talking about the Shackelford Pass? Can you pull up the map where it has Ward 6 and the zoning changes?
Yes, the overall one. Yeah, we can zoom into that. Which one of those specific areas, do you have any questions, or do you had just specific ones to?
I want to know what areas in Ward 6 are you amending the land use zone?
Well, the areas are south of Colonel Glenn, just west
that on
of
the map?
Shackelford.
Can you pull that up so I can see it?
If we could zoom in, you can, Alec, could we zoom in a little bit? Unless we want to pull up all the individual ones.
Scroll up. Enter.
Yeah, everything on that corridor is east of 430, in between Shackelford and 430, and just south of Colonel Glenn. It's that area that we've seen several developments come in that has requested some of the rezoning in there. A lot of that area had been set aside for office development. And we've seen that change. You've seen the wastewater, Little Rock Water Reclamation Authority offices kind of go down there in that area. And so we're looking to adjust some of those areas for that. So if you
And
got
you're
a
changing
particular,
it to what?
well, which specific area? Because each one of them is a little bit different.
The green.
The green, that is that 09. Right now, that is listed as suburban office for that.
You're changing it to what?
Let me get the write-up for the 09. I'll have to change that. That exhibit didn't specifically show what that was.
And then the tan one. Is it currently, and what are you changing it to?
Okay, the area 9, that's the one west of Shackelford Road. The changes from suburban office with the light industrial and service trades over suburban office and service trades. We're looking at some additional light industrial in that area.
Okay, will you be able to provide me with what is allowed in that zoning designation, light industrial? And then also on number 190111, what is it currently and what are you changing it to?
The current is light industrial, and we want to change that area on 11 to commercial. Most of the area shown as commercial use on the plan has already been developed in that area.
I want to know what is allowed in those designations so
Yes,
that I
ma'am.
won't be caught off guard. And I want to make sure that it's far enough away from my single family in that area so that if they won't be upset. Because they're
Yes,
not going to
ma'am.
know about these zoning changes. They're not paying any attention to that.
I'll separate out those specific areas, and so we'll have an overall map. I think we'll better explain it.
Okay,
Is we'll have a little blown up area of your area, also of where the land use down on the Mableville Pike, and also along the Woodrow area, so that we don't have to be zooming in like this as much.
okay.
I have another question. I don't know, if Doris, are you through with, okay, thank you. So Doris already asked the question about the green, and down below that is a burgundy color, and it looks like we're changing it to RM. Is that multifamily?
That's residential medium density.
Medium
It's
density?
not necessarily multifamily. It's just a designation of what a certain density that it can be up to.
Okay, so what is this building that's down below in that residential? What is that? David O'Dodd and Interstate 430, but I don't know what that building is there. It's very
You're looking on
close
the north side of that, northeast intersection of it. Which side are we talking
northeast
about?
of David O'Dodd Road.
Okay. There is some, I'll have to go pull the existing facility there. I'll put it in the write-up of what it is.
This is very close to a really nice subdivision, Water's Edge,
Mhm.
those over there. So
And excuse me for a second, Director, the changes from residential medium density to public institution
okay.
for that burgundy looking area.
Do you think that's a school there,
It says right now in the write-up, it's a church.
church?
It's not, and so we don't believe that's going to change for that area.
So public institution.
Public institutional, that's what we typically put on schools, churches, that type of institutions.
I'd like to hold this separate.
That's
To be held separate. Next, any more questions, Director Ward?
No, that was all on that one. Sometimes those kind of slip up on us and we don't
Well,
know what's going on with them. So I think it's good we talk about them.
That was a long list of stuff, and I've tried not to bring those lists to the board as much, kind of break them up when the zonings come through and trying to look more at a corridor.
You know what would be helpful is if, when you send it with all those maps in it, like you did, like it's on the agenda, if you said, like Ward 7 or Ward 1 or 6 or something to denote, which ones, I don't look at all of them, but I'm interested in what's in Ward 7 and Doris is interested in what's in Ward 6. So if we had some other notation in this long list here, that would be great.
Okay, I'll make that
suggestion.
correction.
Suggestion.
That's a valid one. We'll make that change. What was the next one? Item 7, Mayor, that's what they,
Yes.
Yes.
if we'll bring up the sketch plan for this one, if it's up there. Currently, right now, as it stands, the property is sitting on at 9715 Colonel Glenn. It is currently a planned development, commercial. What sits on the property right now is essentially a utility contractor and is a lay-down material yard.
Get out of there.
It has been unoccupied since 2017. So right now, on the different sides of it, if we could bring up like the zoning map. Like I said, the property's been unoccupied since 2017. It has 4 unoccupied structures. The zoning, to the east, west, and north of the site lies a mix of commercial and residential zoning. If you look over to the east, that's the residential, south, more commercial area on there. We did send out to all the neighborhood associations listed in the city for it. What they're proposing to do is they're wanting to use for a towing service. So the lot, an existing 4.16 acre lot, use it for a towing service. There's different things that there's going to use for each of the existing 4 structures. If we could bring back the site plan and maybe zoom in to let them see some of there's building labels on there. Building A is going to serve as the Metro Towing Office building with the public access from the north. Building B will serve on-site maintenance shop for repair and maintenance of the vehicles associated with the business only. And C and D, both buildings, will be used for medium, heavy-duty, and rollback tow truck parking. No new buildings are proposed to be constructed. Metro Towing has been in operation since 1990. They do operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Their plan is also to erect an opaque fence around the property that will screen the operation from any neighbors and cars driving on Colonel Glenn.
So this has been like an abandoned location for a while, is what I
Yeah,
read.
it's a utility laydown yard, so a contractor's yard.
So the thing that bothers me about a towing company, and I read that they would have up to 60 cars, no longer than 30 days in their lot. But they're not allowed to repair, use parts off of the automobiles, those kinds of things at this location.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a auto salvage. It's just a towing. That's what this is.
Sometimes
is
they
in.
turn into auto salvage. I just want to make sure that was part of their restrictions.
It's
So-
not specifically listed, but I'll make sure that we double check that and get a write-up about that specific question that you're asking about the storage of the vehicles and the longevity.
So do you know if they're moving from Vimy Ridge Road to this location? Or are they keeping?
I do not know if
two
it's a full move
locations?
or if it's just a addition to that. I can check on that.
They are located on Vimy Ridge Road, and they have a lot of vehicles and they have fencing up, so you don't really see the vehicles back there, but I just want to make sure we're not doing repairs, selling parts, those kinds of things
Okay.
At this location. That was a concern for me.
Yes, ma'am. Item 10, was that the next one?
Yeah. I shouldn't put all more than 7 on one day.
We could bring up is there a zoning map for this one to kind of get the general?
I think there is.
Yeah.
There is.
The board has seen this before previously. Back in 2018, it come before the board to revise it. At that time, it was also a planned development. It was zoned for a PCD, multi-lot mixed office and commercial development on the south. And then the remnant of it to the north was a PID. Well, the PID portion of it has expired. And then they want to combine it with together all as one. So if you're looking at the PCD was that tract of land, that smaller tract of land that's just on the south of the hatched areas. The PID was that north area. So now they're looking to combine it. Right now, the property is undeveloped. We did notify all the neighborhood associations that is on our list.
Hey,
So
is that in the city limits? See these dark lines around, I'm just wondering if that's denotes a city limits boundary, or is that just?
yes, this is the city limits.
It's in the city limits,
Yes.
okay. And you said there was a PCD, and what was it for?
The original one, there's a planned commercial development, which is on the south. So if we could zoom in to that a little bit, Ally, you'll see the PCD is that smaller tract
Right,
that's on the bottom. Okay, and the PID was the northern tract that was together. So what you'd seen previously was more of that PCD, and they're going to leave the remnants for the PID for that. The PID has expired. So what now they want to do is they're just combining it all. And for the one development, it's just the PIDs, and they've got it broken up into different lots of what they want to do for the uses. So this is more conceptual in nature. You know, we talked about plan developments can be very detailed in layout, some can be conceptual. So what they're looking to do is they're describing the lots that they want to use in the setback and the permitted uses for the lots that they want to do. Do we have any type of layouts of the lots for the exhibits on there?
this is across the street from that big mobile home park. That's on Stagecoach, right?
Yes, I
Thank
believe that's the road that's on the south, that little loop area.
So Otter Creek is up in there somewhere. Can't tell how close it is to this
Across the creek.
location. Across the
Northeast,
creek,
northeast, over there. I think there's also the ball field is over there. So
Yeah. our
if we continued the
soccer
road,
Field is there.
yeah,
City
yeah,
Park.
the Vimy, if it comes across, there is a plan to tie that back in to the north. At the very north, it would hit the edge of the Otter Creek subdivision. So everything is on Otter Creek to the northeast of it. What they're looking for use-wise, the permitted uses for the PID development, we permitted C3 uses for lots 1 through 4 and 7 through 10, and I1 uses for lots 5 and 6. So if I'm correct, the 5 and 6 is still to the north portion of it. It's just all combined into one PID.
But all of this, with the exception of the PID, they've got to, if they want to change it to a PID, they've got to go through zoning in order to do that, because this is a conceptual plan.
This is a conceptual, so what'll happen is they set some criterias on some setbacks. So for different lots, so they got the C3 development standards for the minimum front setback is 25 feet. Rear building setbacks is 0 on the rear, 25 feet if it's on the street side. Side building setbacks 25 feet, maximum building height 35 feet. So that still does meet the C3 standards that's beside it. I think there's an adjustment on the rear. So they've set some setback standards and some other stuff, and then they're also sitting there, they're going to meet other sections of code. So what would happen is if they're looking to change anything from the code that they specify in here, they have a percentage of change they're allowed to do. And above and beyond that, it would need to come back before the planning commission and the board for revision.
That's almost 51 acres.
In total, yeah.
And there's some floodplain across.
There is, and they're looking to designate that as open space.
It won't be the whole 50 acres.
No. And nobody showed up in that was registered in opposition or support, and it was on consent agenda for the planning commission.
So they would have notified, well, okay. You said
We
all the
notified now all
neighborhoods.
neighborhood associations in the city. That's registered with the city. With an email address. Let me clarify that.
Right. That's difficult to get.
Yeah, since we did the mass that several of y'all requested, it's better to send an email out to them. And we went through over a year and a half trying to confirm all the emails and trying to get them right to send them all out. And I don't remember that there was a last one. I got through 10. Is there another item? Mayor, do you remember?
Number 13,
13.
on South University, 75th
Yes.
Street.
If we could bring up the zoning map, because that's mainly the criteria that they're doing, and zoom into that.
It looked like they're not doing anything new. They're just combining.
No, it is
everything.
combining. This is a property that actually was zoned prior to our current zoning. So when our current zoning got acted in place, we had to look at what was relevant for it. So if you look at the existing zoning, there's I-2, C3, and O3. And back when it did get rezoned, that the apartments that are just to the north is all part of that rezoning. So what this is just a clearing up of what the zoning should be. So what is allowed in that zoning or that use, the use is not going to change. They're not proposing to change any use. So that C3 zoning would allow the use that they're doing, currently right there. And it gets rid of the old zoning that was grandfathered in and moved over to our new designation. So this, that I-2, it will get rid of the I-2 and the O3.
That's what it looked like to me, but I did want clarification because there is a lot of residential things around this location, so.
There is, and this would fit in what that C3 use is.
It's a Heritage Motel.
Yeah, this there is the old Lamplighter Inn and Heritage House.
All I could think was Lamplighter, and I knew that wasn't right.
That was a long time ago.
Well, I'm elderly.
Yeah, that restaurant has been burnt down for a while.
Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any questions on items 16 through 20?
16, Mayor.
Director Richardson?
Jamie, what are they proposing to put here if we don't demolish this? And first of all, is this the old Advanced Auto building?
No, this is not the old Advanced Auto building. The Advanced Auto building is just to the west of here.
So there's a little strip mall where they have the,
This is an old body repair shop, car repair shop that was there. It's at 4500 Asher. It had a portion of the roof that had fell in and maintenance over time. If you drive out there now, and if you bring up the pictures that I have up there, Alley, they've, because of that roof had fallen in, they had to put some structural support. You've probably seen it from the roadside to keep, because it's an old masonry style building, brick style, not CMU style. And so we had brought it in for condemnation. The board approved it on December 15, 2020. What had transpired is in our process of demolition and going out and getting the bids, we also notify the property owner every time that some of that goes out so that they are fully aware, when the contractor does show up, at that location. And we were approached by the property owner that he wanted to remediate the building, take care of it. And they did contact the director of the ward at that time. They also contacted executive administration and requested, and also us, if that could happen. And we explained that we was in this process and we didn't want to stop that process at the time, but there was a point, and we was requested to do so by Director Hendricks at that time, that to bring it before the board again for reconsideration. And so what we did was think of what the conditions would be if we brought that back. And so we also listed some of the conditions to look at that for the board to consider removal from that ordinance for this property. We're very concerned about the structural integrity of the building just because of the roof falling in. Could we bring up one of the photos I sent? You don't have them? We had got a aerial photo of the actual roof. So where there's an existing hole there, and you can see over time that probably somewhere between a half to 2/3 of the roof has been compromised. You can kind of see where it's sagging in a little bit. So the concern is if you're going to repair this roof, all of the floor or the ceiling joists there are tied into the wall. So if you're going to remove those, you like what you see out there now, if you drive by the property, you'll see some abutments or structures beside the wall that is holding it up just in case, because you're removing the interior support. And they would have to do the same thing to repair this building. And they would have to remove a lot of that roof structure to do so. So some of those conditions we would require as a condition, if y'all consider removal, that the owner contact the structural engineer and provide a complete written analysis and report of the structural integrity of the building, just because of the age, and they're going to be removing some of the structures in the remediation. And because it's been sitting there, we're requesting this to be done within 30 days if the board chooses to remove it from condemnation. We also want a complete set of plans from a professional in that remediation effort within 60 days. So in other words, do the analysis, see what the problem is, and provide us a plan on what they're going to do to repair the building. And then we also want them to, apply for construction plans. We want them to actually go through with the process. Is that the old? I think those are the old pictures. And that doesn't show the hole in the roof. And so we would, so we're looking for, if this is removed, just a continuation of what we would say a remediation plan. When we originally reach out to an individual to repair the building, that's what we request, unless we determine there's no repair to the building, so much fire damage that it needs to be torn down. We wanted it, repaired, remediated. We did not get any response whatsoever on time frame, costs, financial wherewithal, plans to do so. That's what we look for in a remediation plan. So we're setting wanting that be as part of the conditions if the board chooses to do that. We're still recommended denial because we do feel like that is still a substantial cost to this building to repair that. And even right now, we don't know, because I haven't been able to walk around the inside of the building, see if there's any structural integrity or damage to the walls, to the masonry walls, because they've been sitting unsecured with the roof for a while, but that's where the structural analysis would need to come in.
But the mayor's doing some current revitalization on Asher Street. And prior to the 2010 census, that used to be Ward 2, and it's Ward 1 now. And I think there's some deliberate attempts to try to revitalize that area. Have you received a conceptual framework of a plan and with a specific timeline accompanying that plan? Now, how long has that building been vacant as well?
Oh, I'll have to go back and look at the original ones of when it was vacated and had been in use. I think that was in the original write-up. But it's been a while. It hasn't been, I would say, decades. I'd be saying this, too much, but I'll get you specific timeframes.
Okay, thank you.
More questions for Jamie, or any other questions for 16 through 20? Questions for 16 through 20? Any no questions for 16 through 20? We'll now conclude well, we'll now transition from our agenda meeting to our interviews.
Mayor. Mayor.
Director Contreras?
There is somewhere around here a resolution that I'd like to put on for next week supporting the school board and their request for an increase in their funding. So I think it takes 8 votes to put it on. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second. Excuse me, Clerk? Did you say something, Clerk?
Who's got the resolution?
Director Webb.
Everybody.
Sounds like.
Director Computers has the resolution. He's passing it out, or will be passing it out, in support of the Little Rock School District millage that will be on November the 2nd, I believe. Madam Clerk, there was a motion from City Director Computers. There was a second from
I think
City
Director Webb.
Kathy Webb.
Mhm.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. It'll be added to the agenda.
Thank you. You were too quick for me.
Thank you. We'll now
There's a modification on.
per the parliamentarian, I need to share that I'm adding it as well based on the parliamentarian procedure. Just making it
Mayor,
correct for the record.
Mr. Parliamentarian, I thought, wouldn't we have to do that in session?
That's why I whispered it into your
That's why I made that comment.
right. The mayor has the authority to put something on as the manager does without the vote.
Okay.
And so he's just double. If somebody gets sick and we only have 7 that night, we could still pass the resolution, but we couldn't consider it because we couldn't get it officially on. So he's making it his matter too, and that way it'll be on the agenda.
For those in the room, in honor of City Director Phillips, who may not understood what just happened, we are in an agenda meeting. So as there was a motion, a symbolic motion from Director Concuris, seconded by City Director Kathy Webb, to put a resolution in support of Little Rock School District millage on October the 19th. Since we're not in an official board meeting, we're in an agenda meeting, I, as mayor, can put a matter on before the agenda. And so I am committing to put the matter on before the agenda. There was a symbolic vote from the members of the board today.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Vice Mayor Hines?
Director Computers, does that only cover the LRSD? Or
Yes.
is it also the PCSSD village renewal? Or
It's just
bond
the
renewal?
Little Rock School District.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll now transition to the interviews for Ward 1 position candidates. Just want to make sure everyone's aware that was communicated, I guess, few weeks ago. The city board has gone through a ranking process, and they're due to a tie. Originally, the process allowed for 7, but there were a tie due to the ranking process. So 8 individuals will come before the city board and have an interview process. I do want to share for those watching, this process is in recent history, I guess within the last 20 to 30 years, has only happened twice. That happened with at-large City Director Compuris, as well as former at-large City Director Gene Fortson. And so this is the process within the official statute and code on how we are moving forward in regards to the city board voting on these candidates. We will go in alphabetical order based on the process. Each candidate will have 10 minutes to share why he or she would like to receive the governing body, which is the city board's appointment to the city board for the remainder of the late great Ward 1 City Director Irma Hendricks to fulfill her term, which ends December 31st, 2022. Whoever wins does have the opportunity to decide to run for that seat, which will take place the first Tuesday in November in 2022. So from alphabetical order, it will be, I'm going to share the names first before we call them up. Mr. Michael Atkins, Mr. Frederick Gentry, Mrs. Sheila Miles, Mr. Virgil Miller, Mrs. Sarah Pilcher, Mrs. Valerie Pruitt, Reverend Mrs. Anika Whitfield, and Mrs. Karen Zuccardi. That will be the order from that standpoint. Each candidate has 10 minutes to share whatever they want to share with the board, whether that's why they want to be appointed, but whatever they want, it's up to them to share within the 10 minutes. If they allow for time in the 10 minutes, if they want to entertain questions from members of the city board, that is permissible, but again, it's up to that member, up to that candidate to utilize the 10 minutes how they see fit. So it's totally up to the candidates on how they utilize their 10 minutes. Everyone understand? Any questions from members of the city board? Question from members of the city board? City Director Computers?
Is there a place where they can see the time? How do we know where it's hard to know when you're speaking if there's not a time someplace. So do we have a clock?
We use the same clock process that we use for citizens communication, and basically the time we just allow, we sound off at the 10-minute, but I don't.
But what I'm saying is for them, I think it's hard to speak for 10 minutes or know that when.
So what we'll do is, Madam Clerk, if you will create a sheet of paper and just say five, and just show it.
That's what that would be.
Well, Ally, can you get whoever has the timer, get a sheet of paper and give it to someone very close to the podium so they see that they have 5 minutes left. So Ally and Ashley, if you all will figure that out, that'd be great.
It is hard to speak without knowing.
Thank you for that suggestion, Director Computers. We'll wait for them to get that situated.
Perfect.
That was up in the front.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Angie. Mr. Michael Atkins.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mayor, members of the board, I would like to begin by expressing my deepest condolences to the family and director of Hendricks. He served the board and our community well. I know we all appreciate all of her endeavors. I would like to take a moment of silence for her and her family. Some of you know me. Some of you don't. Some of you remember me when I ran for Ward 1 seat back in 2018. But for those who don't know me, my name is Michael Ted Atkins, but please call me Ted. I have lived in Ward 1 most of my life and was a student of the Little Rock School District. I'm a proud graduate of Little Rock Central High School, and I'm currently serving on the LRCH Alumni Association Board. I am also working part-time for the Junior Deputy Association ball fields, preparing baseball fields for the kids to play. I am a retired officer from the Little Rock Police Department, but I protected and served the community for over 32 years. In addition to being a detective and working the streets, I work part-time at Park Plaza Mall and the Crown Plaza. In each of those jobs, I worked 20 years. I'm a devoted father to two beautiful young ladies, Skylar and Madeline Atkins. Skylar is currently employed as an accountant for MPV Express, a logistics company, while Madeline is a junior at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. Maddie has maintained a 4.0 GPA and is studying to become an elementary teacher. Both daughters also graduated from Little Rock Central High School. I guess you could say our tiger blood runs deep. I had helped raising my daughters by my wonderful mother, Elsie Atkins, who has resided off 11th and Valentine for over 50 years. My grandfather, Clay Aaron, was a brave man. He was a firefighter for Little Rock Fire Department for over 40 plus years. His last 10 years, he worked under, he was assistant fire chief, and he also served directly under Chief Jack Davis. There are a few key qualities that make a good board of director. They need to be multifaceted. They need to integrity. They need to care about security and prioritize unity. Let me take a second to explain how I would be able to contribute all of those qualities. As an officer, I had to be multifaceted. You must have a specific, unique aspect for the job. You need to be able to listen, act quickly, form a resolution to the issue at hand. You must be flexible, attentive in different diverse situations, because some situations your decision must be made a matter of seconds. You must have integrity as a police officer or board member. You need to be honest and have a strong moral compass. As a Christian man, I believe my values would be an asset and play a significant role in my decision making. I am no politician. I'm just a humble man wanting to continue service for his community. The definition of unity is the state of being united or joined as a whole. And that is exactly what I want to do for our community. As a police officer, you must be able to unify people. In negative situations, you have to be able to bring positive resolution. You must treat everyone with respect and dignity, no matter what their race, their sexual preference, or ethnic background. We want our community to be whole and not divided. As you well know, you can't spell community without unity. I believe there could and would be more coalition within these neighborhoods between the police department and the residents. If the police department would implement the DARE program. This program introduced elementary children and their parents to police officers protecting their community. Introducing children to the police officer at an early age helps prevent them from fearing them. It changes perception of a police officer and puts them in a positive light instead of a negative one. As a board member, I would also like the police department to provide classes on how to act or deal with police officers when they encounter them. If the officer acts inappropriate towards a civilian, they should know there are ways to make complaints against the officer within the police department, and there will be video footage of the incident. Some of the vacancies at the Little Rock Police Department aren't on this board or this mayor. It's because of the previous administration and having a hiring freeze several times, especially when it came to negotiations of contracts. If we can change the perception of the police department, there will be more peace within our community. As a board member, you want the residents in your ward to have a sense of security. You want them to feel safe. You want them to live without fear of something happening to them or their property. You want them to know they can count on you and be able to rely on you for support and help with their issues or concerns in the community. In Ward 1 and the 12th Street corridor, while the streets and the curbs look really beautiful for the revitalization of 12th Street, the people need more. Our community requires more than the bare minimum. The residents deserve a local grocery store, a real grocery store, not a convenience store. Constituents in Ward 1 deserve the same as any other. One that may have way access to, we all know it's a walk, it's lengthy to the nearest grocery store. So many citizens require public transportation to go to the vast distance to fill their fridge. We need at least one grocery store that can accommodate the food supply and general nutrition for all well-balanced meals. If I were selected for Ward 1 seat, I would push for the Little Rock to lead instead of follow. We need to be looking towards the future and not the past. We have lost several businesses to North Little Rock under the previous administrations, such as Alltel Arena / Simmons Arena, Dickey Stevens Ballpark. Even though they're right across the bridge, these were revenue opportunities for Little Rock. If I were elected, I would want to make sure we are spending our funds wisely. I would make sure that we have the correct equipment for every department affiliated with the city. I would like, in Ward 1, I would like to take the vacant properties in Ward 1 and make sure they are not dilapidated. Remember, Little Rock is the capital of Arkansas. And we want to represent our state and pave the path. It takes all of us. It's not just me, it's not just you. It takes a unity group to be successful. United we stand, divided we fall. Thank you for allowing me time to speak with all of you. Now I have the remaining time. I would like to take this opportunity to answer any questions you may have for me.
How much time is left, Allie?
16 seconds.
Thank you so much, Mr. Atkins.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Gentry, as you come up, the time has now been positioned on the screen. Be able to see it. Correct it. See it right here.
Ready?
At your convenience.
Dear Mayor, members of this board, thank you for your time and consideration today. I know you have a daunting task before you. I do not envy you, and I'm sure you'll have some interesting dialogue as you get ready to make this very important decision. My name is Frederick Gentry. Many of you know me, but for the public that don't, I've worked for the city of Little Rock for 8.5 years. I live in Ward 1. I serve as the current president of the Petaway Neighborhood Association, historic Petaway Neighborhood Association, which has made some great strides, and I'm happy to represent them. I want to first say that Director Hendricks was a wonderful public servant and left behind a very honorable legacy and did a great service to the ward and to the city of Little Rock. Today, I am seeking to fill the Ward 1 seat for city director because I believe in the great strides that our city has made. Having said that, however, as long as one part, it is my belief, of our city is not doing well, the city of a whole must take an account to the areas that are struggling, and a great deal of those exist in Ward 1. Now, I want to also say, while Ward 1 has many positive economic attributes and generates a great deal of revenue for the city of Little Rock, one of the positive, or few of the positive attributes are the expanding port, which creates jobs and economic opportunities for the city in Ward 1. The river market, which continues to thrive and provide cultural and other activities for the citizens of Ward 1 and for individuals that come into our city. And we love the sculpture garden that has continued to grow down there. Those are positive attributes. South on Main continues to grow and thrive and have economic opportunities and business growth. The Clinton Library is a positive that generates tourism for our city. I could go on and on about the other many more positive economic contributions that Ward makes to the city. However, let's talk about the challenges that Ward 1 faces. We have over 20 neighborhood associations in Ward 1. I tried to take stock the other day and look at that, some active, some inactive, but nevertheless, there are over 20 that are registered with the city of Little Rock. And most of those are in underserved areas in Ward 1. And a lot of those are some of the most underserved areas in our entire city. So let's talk about quality of life. But let's talk about just a few things. Public safety is one of the greatest concerns in Ward 1. Food deserts has been mentioned is a great concern to residents of Ward 1. Housing, equitable housing, is an issue for the citizens of Ward 1. Now, as you talk to residents throughout the ward, you could come up with a whole list of other challenges that the citizens of this ward face. And if I asked you the question, do you think that that creates an equitable quality of life? I would imagine that many of you would say it does not. So one of the most consistent issues that I had as I discussed challenges for Ward 1 was housing, vacant and abandoned lots. Now, if you take that issue just on its surface, it can have a ripple effect throughout the community. Crime, public safety, the ability for residents to be able to get around. It has an effect on infrastructure. It has a continued ripple effect. And so we must first address the housing dilemma. Now, while people are still starting to move back into our neighborhoods, There was sprawl for many years. I'm happy to see that, to create diversity in housing and people of all races and ages. However, one of the issues that a lot of people mentioned was the way that we actually deal with the housing issue of vacant and abandoned structures in Ward 1. And so we must come up with solutions, think very clearly, and think outside of the box how we create policies that will encourage ways that are fair and equitable as we deal with housing. Now, one of those ways to do that is establishing a citizen body that's made up of residents in Ward 1, city staff, and the courts. Because at the end of the day, we really need to figure out how we address those issues in the beginning versus on the end when we're about to tear properties down. We have 17 National Historic Districts in Ward 1, which we're very proud of. We're proud that we have preservation methods in place. However, we also realize, because I've served, or not served, but been in board meetings, when we must, at the end of the day, have to demolish houses, but that should be, or businesses, commercial property too, but that should always be a last resort. And we need to work with residents who are struggling, people that live in these communities, to help them refurbish or rehabilitate their homes. And there should be resources for them to do that. However, we have to deal with the individuals who own property that do not want to relinquish it and do not want to do anything so that those properties can be reinvested and we can create home ownership. So that is one of the key issues, I think, that has a rippling effect in the community. And I think that if we really strongly seek to deal with our housing and vacant housing issue, then the rest, if you'll just think for a second with me, that in 5 to 10 years, perhaps some of those other things will fall into place. I want to just talk briefly. In fact, one structure that was saved last year, Director Doris Wright was instrumental in saving the historic Murphy Jeffries building. I had a small role in that, and my small role was only that I contacted the individuals who are trying to do the deal to help them work together so that the other party would be able to buy the building to keep it from being demolished. That was very simple. However, that could happen more often throughout Ward 1 as we try to save structures. Many of you know that I was involved in the revitalization of areas along 12th Street. Now, that took a lot of time, resources, effort, listening, working with citizens. It was the citizens that established that revitalization plan, and we continue to work today to implement that. Yes, as has also been mentioned, infrastructure, there have been a lot of great progress made there, but still, the consistent issue is housing. We still need to address the housing stock in that area, in that community, to make it better and more vibrant. And I will continue those efforts. I'm not going to be long-winded, but I just wanted to tell you one of the issues that people, as I've gone throughout the ward, have spoken about, and those are the key things. So I want to thank you all for your time and consideration. I hope you will consider me for this position. I've spent many, many years of public service here in the city and in other areas, and I look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Director Warwick has a question.
Thank you. Mr. Gentry, I was looking
ma'am.
at your resume.
Yes.
This is really not a trick question, but it kind of is. You attained rank of Eagle Scout in 1995.
Correct.
And then you were an alderman in 1999. You like 18 years old?
Well,
Where you were an alderman in
I-
Jacksonville, Arkansas?
I was elected the youngest alderman in the history of the city and one of the youngest in the state at the time. Initially, I ran for office when I was 18, got a little over 40% of the vote against a 14-year incumbent, lost, and came back. During the middle of that, I actually went through Marine Corps basic training, was in the reserves, came back and ran for office again and won that race. So I did serve on the city council in Jacksonville within that time. I started a little early.
Yeah, you did, you did.
Thank you, Mr. Gentry.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you all for your time and thank you for your service. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Ms. Sheila Miles.
Mayor Scott and the Board of Directors, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I also want to posthumously acknowledge Director Irma Hendricks. Ask yourselves this question: where would this city be if it wasn't for me? Ask yourselves this question: where would the city be if it wasn't for me? About 13 years ago, I was asked to serve as vice president of the Wright Avenue Neighborhood Association. After some discussion, I replied, ID. The person sitting next to me was a pastor. He slipped me a note. I read the note and it said, "Take it." After the meeting, he pulled me aside and he said, "The city, the neighborhood needs someone like you. The neighborhood needs someone with integrity and a good demeanor. The neighborhood needs someone who has your servant leadership style." After that discussion, I thought about it. I accepted the nomination and I was elected vice president of the Wright Avenue Neighborhood Association. Sometime later, maybe a couple years, I was elected as president. I have served as president of the Wright Avenue Neighborhood for 10 years, and guess what? I have no regrets. I have collaborated and advocated for the residents of the neighborhoods before the mayor, the city manager, police department, the fire department, and many of the other departments within the city of Little Rock. I have built a close relationship with city departments and a comprehensive understanding of the workings of the day-to-day operations of the city to make sure that the citizens of the Wright Avenue neighborhood got what they need through planning, leveraging connections, resources, and collaborations. I have been fortunate to lead a team who have sought to have the needs of the community at heart. One of my proudest accomplishments as president of the Neighborhood Association is the adoption of the Wright Avenue Neighborhood Action Plan. I managed the collaboration between the City of Little Rock urban planners and the residents of the Wright Avenue neighborhood to draft this plan, which was later adopted by the city. This was a major undertaking for our neighborhood. This project was initiated after asking the question several times: what is the city's plan for the Wright Avenue neighborhood? What is the city's 10-year plan for the Wright Avenue neighborhood? There was no 10-year plan. Well, what is the city's 5-year plan for the Wright Avenue neighborhood? There was no 5-year plan. As a result, we worked very diligently with the city to draft a neighborhood action plan. As we started planning, it was extremely important that we got community involvement. Approximately 700 households were notified, invited to the meetings, and encouraged to participate. During the planning meetings, we provided dinner to make sure that families could attend. For one whole year, the residents of the neighborhood came together and worked to draft a neighborhood action plan. The residents were engaged, motivated, and worked as a team, building consensus. And finally, the plan was drafted, focusing on improving housing, infrastructure, economic development, branding, public safety, and youth programs. We are currently in the implementation phase. The community is inspired because now that vision is becoming reality. This is where the rubber meets the road. To brand our neighborhood, we have designed and installed banners. We have street sign toppers. We are documenting our neighborhood's rich history so we can sponsor neighborhood tours. We're using spreadsheets to track infrastructure issues and requests. The historic Wright Avenue Streetscape project has been implemented. We collaborated with the city and other entities to bring economic development into the Wright Avenue neighborhood by promoting Shop Black, which brought in more than $20,000 in sales in one day in only 8 hours. This event was successful. We are collaborating with the police department and fire department to develop a plan to address some critical public safety issues within our neighborhood. The plan is working. However, to get to the real understanding of public safety issues, we must dig deeper and understand and determine the root causes. Another proud moment is the national recognition that we received for our Movies on the Boulevard event. This is a free movie and with free concession. And our neighborhood was awarded second place in the category of social revitalization. This model is being used by neighborhoods across the country. And this model is also being used by neighborhoods across the city. Under my leadership, we have also been involved in other community concerns. We actively supported Philander Smith College's proposal to address an emergency student housing shortage. We actively support Scholar Made School in their activities. We actively support voter education and voter registration drives. And we have supported moderating candidate forums. We also have the issue with boarded and abandoned houses. Approximately 27% of the houses in Ward 1 were built before 1939 and approximately 57% before 1960. Boarded houses are a disservice to our community and they serve as a magnet for criminal activities. These houses need to be transformed into loving homes. My ongoing collaboration with the city, my ability to bring consensus, my ability to transition vision into reality, and my resilience makes me uniquely qualified to become Director of Ward 1. This vacancy should not be the trigger to suddenly want to get involved. Ward 1 needs a selfless leader who is flexible, change agent, and committed to service. It's going to take more than time and commitment for just attending board meetings and committee meetings to address challenges of Ward 1. The rubber needs to meet the road. Holding this Ward 1 position is more than just talking loud and saying nothing. That's like a dull knife that just ain't cutting it. Greatness is determined by service. As a visionary, I understand and have experienced the commitment of service to this community. I know and I have experienced the heartbeat and soul of the people of our community. I want to join you on the City of Little Rock Board of Directors as the next Ward 1 Director. And finally,
Ms. Miles.
ask yourselves the question, where would this city be if it wasn't for me?
Thank you so much, Ms. Miles. Mr. Miller.
Before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of my wife, Stephanie, who's here with me, and publicly thank her for supporting me and in approving that I could do this. You can't do it without your spouse. And Stephanie, I want to thank you for allowing me to stand before you today. So thanks, babe. All right. Mayor Scott, Vice Mayor Hines, and members of the Little Rock City Board of Directors, good evening. I want to thank you for this opportunity to share with you why I want your vote to fill the open Ward 1 position. To paraphrase the words of the late Ward 1 Director Irma Hendricks, I'm not here for myself. I'm here to serve the people and the community. For over 44 years, I've worked in Little Rock, serving the city as a corporate, civic, and community leader. I've lived for over 30 years as a resident in Ward 1, first as a renter on East 9th Street, and then as a homeowner on Spring Street. When I got married, my wife had a house in Otter Creek that was big enough for both of us and our 2 daughters. It was perfect for us, Director Wywick, because our youngest daughter could walk to Otter Creek Elementary. We loved it, and she loved it. However, after she graduated, we wanted to move downtown. We found a lot, and in 2020, we built our dream home. My wife is only 6 blocks from her mother, which is great for her and sometimes not so great for me. I'm just kidding, Stephanie. I absolutely love my mother-in-law, and we love having her as our neighbor. Now, let me tell you a little something about me professionally. I'm a banker that has worked primarily in the field of community development and in Community Reinvestment Act, CRA compliance. The CRA is a regulation that requires banks to meet the credit needs of low and moderate income neighborhoods in their markets. I have worked as a CRA officer throughout my professional career, and I have had to develop relationships to not only understand the needs of low and moderate income neighborhoods, but to develop products and services to meet those needs. As a community development banking professional, I've worked with other commercial banks, community development financial institutions, and municipalities to address needs of underserved people and communities. In addition, I work with numerous agencies and nonprofit organizations, including neighborhood associations, community action agencies, community development corporations, affordable housing developers, state agencies, credit counseling agencies, the Small Business Administration, the U.S. Department of Urban Development, and the Federal Home Loan Bank. And working with the Federal Home Loan Bank, I've been able to secure grants under the following programs: the Special Needs Assistance Program, or SNAP. We partner with Little Rock's housing and neighborhood programs over the past 2 years to secure $120,000 in grant funds to assist in repairing 20 homes for qualifying households in Little Rock, primarily in Ward 1. The Housing Assistance for Veterans Program, or HAVEN. We work with Dr. Stella Morris at the Veterans Resource Center to secure funds to repair homes for qualifying veterans and Gold Star families. The Affordable Housing Program, AHP. I've submitted successful applications for the following: Rural Services for the Blind for the renovation of their campus on Fair Park. Gaines House, a shelter for homeless women with mental, physical, and behavioral health issues for renovations of their shelter on South Gaines. And Our House, a shelter for working homeless for renovations of their campus on East Roosevelt Road. And finally, with the Federal Home Loan Bank, I've secured applications, successful applications through their Partnership Grants Program. And over the past 2 years, we submitted 2 successful grant applications, one to the University District Corporation and the other to Affordable Housing. I am on the governing board of Arkansas Capital Corporation and on the advisory board of its affiliate, Heartland Renaissance Fund. Heartland Renaissance Fund's primary mission is to stimulate economic development in communities underserved by traditional sources of funds by participating in the New Market Tax Credit Program. Little Rock projects have received over $67 million in New Market Tax Credits from Heartland Renaissance Fund, $20 million to Arkansas Baptist College, a historically Black college, $11 million for public schools, $10 million for the Arkansas Arts Center, $20 million to the Mann Building, and $6 million to the Pyramid Building, both located downtown. Now, I've shared with you some of how my professional career has allowed me to do community development work to the benefit of residents in our city. I also have a heart for volunteerism and civic service. The city of Little Rock has asked me numerous times to serve on task force, commissions, and special projects. And I have accepted my city's call to service time and time again. Whether it was accepting a leadership role, along with Debbie Milam and Bob East on the citizen-led Vision Little Rock report, or serving on the Airport Commission, the Land Bank Authority, or the Residential Housing and Public Facilities Board. I understand the important role that citizen volunteers play in our local government. My service as a board member of the United Way provided me with opportunities to paint houses throughout the city with the Paint Your Heart Out program, work with teachers in the Success by 6 program, and set up a dental clinic in Whitfield Elementary School. Working with Habitat for Humanity, I've raised funds and built houses for qualifying families in Little Rock. As a member of the Board of Trustees of Baptist Health Corporation, we made sure our medical services and outreach efforts reached all parts of Little Rock, especially underserved neighborhoods, by partnering with churches. We partnered with St. John Missionary Baptist Church at Roosevelt and Main, and we partnered with St. Mark Baptist Church on 12th Street. I have been humbled and honored to be selected as the Arkansas Humanitarian of the Year by Just Communities of Arkansas, the Tutor of the Year by Volunteers in Public Schools for the Little Rock School District. I am proud to be the recipient of the Whitney M. Young Junior Service Award by the Boy Scouts of America and the recipient of the Martin Luther King Junior Service Award by the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. If given this opportunity, I will continue to leverage the community investment programs of the Federal Home Loan Bank, the New Market Tax Credit programs, and other programs to help our city. I will reach out to all registered Ward 1 neighborhood associations to establish dialogue and to determine their needs and concerns. I will also use my talents as a member of this board to build consensus and strive towards more collaboration. One thing I know is that every member of this board of directors wants what's best for our city. And finally, I've made a professional and personal commitment to work and live in Little Rock. I've been able to work in roles that have allowed me to do what I love. I love to use my skills, talents, and knowledge, especially my knowledge of community development financing tools, to help and serve our people. As I stated in the beginning of my comments, I'm not here for myself. I'm here to serve the people and the community. If given this opportunity, I plan on doing just that. Thank you. Any questions? Well, again, I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I want to publicly thank my wife for allowing me to do what I love. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Ms. Pilcher?
Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, City Board. Can you all hear me? I'm a bit short. Thank you. My name is Sarah Thomas Pilcher. I'm happy to be with you all this afternoon. Thank you for giving this opportunity to speak to you all. I'm honored to be one of the 8 candidates that you're reviewing and looking at and hearing speak today to take this legacy of Irma Hendricks that she left behind for us. Ward 1 is the most diverse ward in the city. It stretches from Oak Park all the way to the airport, all the way down to Fush Dam. I'm lucky because I'm the current president of the Downtown Neighborhood Association. I'm boots to the ground, and I get to interact with residents every day in Ward 1, all over Ward 1, on a daily basis. When I speak with my neighbors about their concerns, I hear 3 main concerns from them: security, economics, and school. So let's start with the security, which is your safety here in Ward 1 and in the city of Little Rock. They need access to stable housing that can dramatically reduce crime that is committed into our community. By promoting welfare and health development and combating social depravity, by promoting community values and respect for fundamental human rights, by promoting civic responsibility and social mediation procedures, by adapting the working methods of the police and the courts, and prevention of racism, underserved population not being seen. Through this modified police intervention, by modifying judicial intervention and post-sentencing assistance for family and support, and protection for our victims. The second thing that they told that concerns me when I sit on their porch swings and sit on the stairs at Parish Towers, all the way to Albert Pike, is economics. Tie the numbers from the land bank, knowledge of food deserts. Only 2 grocery stores are here in Ward 1. Yes, we have K Hall that gives groceries and helps our neighborhoods, but we only have 2 in such a large area and population that needs more. From the development of grassroots levels, because as a small business owners, my family knows the real challenges of trying to be payroll every month. Looking forward to supporting small businesses, which is the backbone in economic development. Our ward is full of private owners and entrepreneurism. They are going in the community and helping each other and bringing economics right here in the city. The third thing, which really touches my heart, especially what happened today at Central High School. I have family that goes there. I took calls from family members today. Today's violence is a shadow at Central High School and a growing problem we need to address as a city. It shouldn't take an event like today to take the violence and pain across the communities in the city seriously. But that sparks the serious look at not only policy, but the underlying hurt motivating some of the violence that is happening in the silver lining. I know I can't change these overnight. I know the city has a tough challenge ahead, especially with the recent tax election. But I'm eternally hopeful in a better direction. And what I will bring to this board with being the ability to hit the ground running, familiarity with the needs of this district, fresh thinking and enthusiasm. As many of you on this board know me and know that I am a very enthusiastic person. As I mentioned in my cover letter, I consider myself a servant leader. The seat is not about me personally, not for my benefit, but it's to hold the trust of the Ward 1 residents. Ward 1 is the heart of the city. As the first thing that a visitor sees as they leave the airport and go through the downtown and visit the Clinton Library and visit Central, we are that heartbeat. We hold the history of this city. It is important that the unique qualities of Little Rock and Ward 1 is maintained. Our historical communities deserve to be one of the forefront of the identity, including those of other wards, and develop a cohort and identifying identity. Thank you all for having that time to listen to my voice and what I had to say to you all today. I am open for questions. Please ask. Any questions? Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pilcher. Ms. Valerie Pruitt.
Mayor Scott and the City Board. It is an honor and a privilege to have been chosen to be considered for Ward 1 City Board of Directors. I would like to take this opportunity, first of all, to express my appreciation to each of you for the hard work you do on this board and the decisions you make to build a better Little Rock. Also, I would like to say how much I have been touched by the support that I have received from people in the community after it was announced that I was one of 8 people chosen to appear before you today. That support has truly made me know that I made the right decision to apply to represent Ward 1 on the board. You have my resume, so you know all the work I've done and all the committees I've been a part of. So I first would like to briefly give you an insight to my personal background, which is not reflected on my resume. I think it's important for you to know a little about my family. As the older people say in my community, tell me who your people are. My family moved to Little Rock in 1965 when my dad, the late Reverend Douglas Johnson, was called to pastor St. Mark Baptist Church, where he served as pastor for close to 20 years, and where our family continues to have our membership. And I would just like to say how important my faith is to me. I grew up in the south end of Little Rock in Ward 1. Our family owned a neighborhood grocery store, a neighborhood IGA grocery store, for over 30 years on High Drive, which is now Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. I am the youngest of 3 children. I am proud to say that my family continues to be a fabric in the community. There are currently 3 generations living in the South End. My mother, who just celebrated her 93rd birthday, my sister and I reside with my mom, and my niece lives next door to us. And I also have 1 older brother. I have 3 adult children, 7 grandchildren, ranging in ages 5 through 27. I think the most important thing you probably want to know today, one of the questions that you won't have to ask me, I will tell you, why I applied to represent Ward 1. I love this community. It has been a great place to live, to work, and raise my family. I have a passion for working with people. As a board member, I would be a strong advocate for my community, and I would be a team player committed to make all of Little Rock a better city for all our residents. The residents of this community deserve to have a strong advocate to represent them on the board, a person that they can trust, and a person who will be their voice, a person that can truly relate to the issues that are affecting our community. I have the time, I have the energy, and I have the enthusiasm to be a good city board member. I know that this is a big responsibility, and I am ready for the challenge. As I was preparing to make my presentation to you today, I felt it was important for me to go around Ward 1 and talk to some of the residents and find out from them what are some of the issues that they feel are facing our community. Because if I am chosen to represent Ward 1, this will not be about Valerie Pruitt. It will be about the residents in Ward 1 and the residents of the city of Little Rock. These are some of the issues that people that I talked with share with me. Aging infrastructure, crime, especially shootings, economic development, jobs, blighted areas, boarded up housing, a need for more affordable housing, food deserts, and also homelessness. As I talked to residents, I asked, did they feel progress has been made? And most felt that progress has been made, but they feel there's so much more that needs to be done. And I agree. Another question I'm sure you would like to ask me, but I will answer that question before you ask me. What are some of the strengths that I would bring to the City Board of Directors? For more than 15 years, I have been a hands-on person, working on the ground with diverse groups of people in the community, implementing programs and working on projects that have focused on the lives of children and families and making those lives better. I am a consensus builder. I have the ability to build bridges to bring people together. It has been my experience that when people see you pull up your sleeves and you are working side by side with them to make things better in the community, then they know you're not just taught, but they know that you are a person of action. Being a person of action has made me successful at building trust and respect with people across Little Rock. My diverse work and community engagement background and my volunteer efforts have given me the opportunity to be successful at establishing and maintaining great relationships with people across all sectors. I'm not a person of many words, so I'm not sure what my time is right now, but I would just like to close in saying that I feel it's the board's duty to make sure that we are good stewards of tax dollars when we look at services that our residents need in this city, the needs that they need and deserve. I will work tirelessly for Ward 1 and the entire city of Little Rock. I am willing to work side by side with each of you to make Little Rock a better city. I could have chosen anywhere to live, but I chose Little Rock. I love this city, and this is where I want to be. If chosen to represent Ward 1 on the board, I will work tirelessly for my community. I will work with each of you, side by side, to move this city forward. I don't have all the answers, and I'm sure many times you feel the same way, but I feel that if we work together, we can make the right decisions and we can continue to move the city of Little Rock forward. I am ready and I'm prepared to work with each of you to get the job done. It would be an honor and a privilege to serve. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for the hard work that you do on this board. And I would like to thank you for allowing me to appear before you today. And I would like to ask each of you for your support. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pruitt. Reverend Anika Whitfield.
Mayor, members of the City Board of Directors. My name is Anika Whitfield, Dr. or Reverend Anika Whitfield. I hold both titles. Many of you know exactly who I am because I've been before you on several occasions because I believe in civic engagement. I believe that being a resident of the City of Little Rock requires that I engage with those persons that are representing each of us. With that being said, I'd like to ask for your indulgence as I ask the people who are standing with me, willing to help me and support me, not only in this application, but also have been supportive of me through life. And I'm asking if they would come and stand with me. There are many that are in the overflow. There's some that are in this room. And if you would just stand beside me for just a second, I would really appreciate that. So if you have come to be with me, if you're in the overflow or if you're in this room, if you would come and stand. As they are coming up, I want to say that you have received many letters from quite a few of the people that are in this room and people who were not able to come here out of respect of COVID and out of respect of just the space and the time. And Mayor, you did send out a correspondence asking that we knew many people would want to come and support, but to try to watch virtually. I want to thank everyone who was watching virtually. My pastor, my parents' pastor who was just here and had to go back to Pine Bluff. I want to say that I'm standing here because of Christiana Brewer McMurray, because of Vernon F. McMurray, who resided on Marshall and 18th Street in Ward 1. Those are my maternal great-grandparents. My great-grandfather was a postman in the city of Little Rock and served in Ward 1 for all of his adult life. I'm also here standing on the shoulders, and I'm here because of Rose E. Whitfield. I'm here because of William Henry Whitfield, my grandfather, my paternal grandparents, who when I was born were residing in Ward 1, and before I was born lived in Ward 1 as well when they moved here from Alabama. My roots are deep in Ward 1. Up until 2016, I believe it was my former director, Ken Richardson, that mentioned this earlier. In 2016, I was moved out of Ward 1, not Ward 2, not because I relocated, but I was redistricted into Ward 1. And so I had to vote moving forward in Ward 1. My heart has always been, most of you know, in the city of Little Rock. In fact, the last time I was here before the board speaking, I had on a t-shirt that says, "I love Little Rock." Those aren't words, that's the truth. And I want to say that many of you know that I am an organizer. You know that I'm a doctor. You know that I'm a minister. And you know that I'm passionate about those things that I'm very passionate about, and I brought those things to you before. I also want to remind you that many of you who are sitting on the board now were invited to, and only to, one who is no longer here with us physically, but she is ever present. 2 board members who rode with us that are currently here, Ken Richardson being one, and we had our then city mayor, our city manager, and all of the city departments save the community programs. And in 2014, we did a see and do tour of Ward 1 and Ward 2, not the entire wards, but we went through and we had a city trolley, and the city provided vans. And we went through with, again, the department heads, the mayor at the time, the city directors were all invited to come. All of the at-large directors were invited to come because we recognize that they represent the entire city. And I don't believe that any of them showed, but I do remember that Ken Richardson, our Ward 2 director, was there. And as we were touring the city, as we left City Hall, I was the tour guide. And so I was allowed to use the microphone and share what we were seeing downtown, because we recognize that Ward 1 encompasses not only City Hall, not only our district and county courts, not only our state capitol, but also industry, business and commercial areas, our banking areas, and most importantly, the residents, the people of Ward 1. And so as we were going through Ward 1 and Ward 2, I often ask the questions, what are you seeing and what are you not seeing? And as we pulled up to some of the neighborhoods right across the street from Kroger on Roosevelt, the mayor said to me, I see vacant lots. I see vagrant lots. City manager and the city mayor said, I see blighted homes. I asked the department heads, what do you all see? And pretty much everybody agreed that they saw the same things. And I asked them, can I tell you what I see? I see opportunity. I see opportunity because why? I live here. I know the people that are here. In fact, if we look across the street, 3 of my patients live in that house. How do I know? Because I've had to come to their home and take care of them because they didn't have transportation to come to my office. Why do I know the people in this neighborhood and community? Because I live here and I care about the people. And that's not a word, that's not a cliche, that's the reality. Why do I know the managers over at Kroger? Why do I know the people that work at Dollar Tree across the street? Because I want to get to know the people that are serving the people in the community. Why did I care about a street name change in that area, in that community? Because I understand the history of the people that live there. I understand the sacrifices that people made. And I knew that the family members and the community wanted to see that street name changed. And I was willing to be on the front line to help make that happen. And I came before your board. And I thank you that the majority of you voted to change the name from Confederate Boulevard to Springer Boulevard. As we were traversing down Roosevelt Road and as we were passing places like Barton Coliseum, and we talked about how these were places that many people from all over the state would come and see the city of Little Rock, I asked the question, what looks different from our neighborhood? And if you go on the other side of 630, what's missing on our side of 630 that's happening on the other side? And people said things like confluent sidewalks, street lights, grocery stores, banks, and post offices. I mean, the list just kept going on. And I said, wow, how could we be deprived of all of these things on this side of 630? And at the time, I think I was 40 years old. How could we be doing this? And in my lifetime, I saw 2 grocery stores on 12th Street. Now, this was after 2014. One of them had already closed, but the second one closed on 2017, and that was on 12th, just at Lewis. But how do we get to a place? How does the city allow for residents that we say we love? We all come here and say that we love the city, but how do we really love the city? And I'm going to tell you something. As a minister, I'm going to bring this out, and this is not about my particular faith. This is about an interfaith conversation. Where your heart is, your treasure is absolutely as well. My heart is in the community. and you can see who I treasure and who treasures me. And if you allow me the opportunity, not only will I work with you, but I will keep working with and for the people I've been working with and for all of my life. I am not just a community organizer. I'm not just a preacher. I'm not just a doctor. I'm not just a daughter. I'm not just a granddaughter. I'm not just a neighbor. I'm not just a friend. I'm all of those at the same time. And I can balance being who I am. And I hope that you will appreciate who I am, not just by the people that are standing here, but the floods of letters that you've received. Because many of the people that sent you letters blind copied me, and some of them copied you so that you would know that they sent them. And I'm hoping that you will not ignore those emails, that you will not ignore those calls, that you will not ignore the people who have said, I am not only who I say I am, but some of them were kind enough to say even more about me. And so again, I thank you for this opportunity to have been chosen as one of the 8, but I'm hoping that tonight it's clear that I'm the one for Ward 1, that it's clear that you will make the right choice and you will choose someone who's been serving the community all their life, who loves Little Rock and who shows it in her actions. Thank you so very much. If you have any questions, we have 30 seconds. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Anika Whitfield. Thank you so much. Ms. Karen Zuccardi.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me well? Thank you for the introduction and good evening. Again, my name is Karen Zuccardi. I am a consultant for communities, businesses, and individuals. I consult economic development projects and also entrepreneurship. I am honored to have been chosen as one of the finalists to fill the vacancy of the late Director Hendricks. This evening, I am going to walk you through many of the things that I see in our city daily. It is a beautiful city. It is a welcoming city. It is a city that offers everyone possibilities. As a Ward 1 director, I will start with these attributes as the basis of creating an even more thriving Little Rock. A couple of weeks ago, I was going to visit a friend, and I came across Crum Park. I remember this was a park that the city had recently added a water feature to. I pulled into the parking lot, and I noticed a few kids having a wonderful time playing in the park. You should have seen their faces. These kids were laughing, smiling. They were playing like there was no worries in the world. I felt incredibly happy seeing that our kids were enjoying something that the city had recently added to the park. But at the same time, I wondered, what are we doing to guarantee that these kids continue to have those smiles when they graduate from high school? Or will they even graduate at all? Unfortunately, if we don't aggressively look out for our youth, they can easily struggle with media influence, peer pressure, traumatic events, economic problems in their homes, and lack of adult interaction and supervision. As a city director, it will be my objective to encourage our business community and all our citizens to be actively involved with helping to develop and support structures that focus on positive youth development. I am confident this can work, as I have talked to many people in our ward and they have expressed their willingness to do so. As a city, it is imperative that we create pathways that allow our community to be involved. A thriving community has several key attributes. It must offer opportunities for a high quality of life, which includes the ability for its inhabitants to pursue their dreams, or at least have a comfortable place to form them. As a city, we must provide ways of hope and a chance for a bright and positive future for all our people. We can and will continue to do this in Little Rock, and as a city director, I will work with my fellow directors, our mayor, our city staff, and our community to understand, develop, and implement ways to this goal. Ward 1 is the most diverse and non-homogeneous ward in our city. It has a mixture of international industrial operations located at our river port, delicious eateries opening daily in River Market and Soma districts, a worldwide human compassion operation at Heifer International, 2 outstanding HBCUs, Philander Smith and Arkansas Baptist Colleges, a growing destination for conventions well managed by the LRCVB, and one of the most well-known high schools in America. Little Rock definitely has awesome attributes. However, it is not a secret that Little Rock, as do all cities, has its own challenges and great issues of concern. We have a housing problem. A large portion of our housing stock in Ward 1 is older and often not in the best conditions. Families absolutely do the best they can, but sometimes it is just not enough on their own. I want to identify ways that we can help encourage the development of high quality, safe, and affordable housing options. Our people deserve it. We have a crime problem in Little Rock. Much of this crime is being committed by our youth. From street racing to drug activity and its ill effects, vandalism and petty crime, and absolutely way too many homicides. As a Ward 1 director, I will work tirelessly to seek outcomes to reduce these devastating activities. We must continue to recognize the difficult job that the Little Rock Police Department does daily, and we need to support them in any way we can. We know that keeping a community safe and reduce criminal activity is a complex and at times thankless job. We must make sure our community and our police department appreciate one another and work with each other like one. As a city director, a great priority will be placed on finding ways to strengthen the relationships between our citizens and our police officers. Everyone should have the opportunity to earn a decent living and enjoy a fulfilling life. As a city, I cannot think of anything more important than encouraging and developing pathways to good paying jobs, effective transportation options, access to quality healthcare, skill development programs, and the support of our small businesses. A community that provides options for its residents to thrive will truly shine. This is where I see a great opportunity to create formats in which we can engage our business leaders, neighborhood associations, city staff, clergy, and anyone else who wants to share ideas that will lead to the inclusion of all our stakeholders. This way, we fully incorporate and we have the opportunity to embrace the totality of our city in developing solutions for success. The unhoused population in Little Rock must have our love and compassion. Any one of us at any time could have any traumatic episode that renders us incapable of fully taking care of ourselves. We have fantastic organizations that serve this community, but we must do more. For me, this is another opportunity for our business and residents to collaborate with one another and come up with solutions. It will be my objective to encourage. As the current leader and the chairperson of the Little Rock Sustainability Commission, I know there are many ways that we can make Little Rock the best city it can be. By embracing efficient, renewable, and state-of-the-art technologies and practices, we can do more with less. My professional career is highly focused on entrepreneurship support and development. Through my work, I have seen many amazing ideas that have led to solving complex problems. When a city engages new ideas and new ways of conducting its business, it can often reduce costs and find streamlined ways to providing city services. As a city director, I will use my experiences of working with in the entrepreneurial space to encourage innovative ways for the city to operate. I am truly excited and humbled to be considered for this position by you today. As an immigrant from Bogota, Colombia, I was fortunate to find pathways to achieving my goals and dreams in our country. I know firsthand how important support structures are, from taking classes to learn English and opportunities to work my way through college, to going to the Clinton School of Public Service, and finally becoming a US citizen. It is my desire, and I believe my responsibility, to help others find their way. As a member of the Little Rock Board of Directors, much of my input will be driven by the recognition and appreciation for those who took the time in developing opportunities that allowed me to be prepared for the role as important as a city director. I truly believe that I can offer ways for people to achieve their dreams and for our city to thrive. I appreciate your time, and it is my hope that you select me, Karen Zuccardi, as the next Ward 1 director. And with that, I am happy to respond to any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zuccardi.
Mayor, I'd like to give a round of applause to all of the finalists and everybody who came to the podium if we can.
Yes, sir. Before we conclude today's meeting, we will be having a special call meeting tomorrow at 4 p.m. here to have the vote on the new Ward 1 member. Are there any questions from the board in regards to today's discussion and interview process? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.